Dear friends, welcome all of you. We are presenting three of brilliant guys. One is our friend is Ulf Gustafsson, General Secretary of Humanitarian Organization Sweden, and another member, blogger, activist, journalist, and a research worker, Mr. Nirjan Majumdar, who is active with this organization too, and Mr. Monaz Haq, one editor and journalist from Asia Today. You are welcome with us. Could you present yourself, Mr. Ulf Gustafsson?
Yes. Hello, everybody. Nice to be here. Yes, my name is Ulf Gustafsson, and I'm General Secretary of the Swedish Humanist Association. I'm from Sweden, living in Sweden presently. We as an organization has covered and looked into the situation of secular bloggers in Bangladesh for the last 5 years, almost now, and we have had contact with persons, bloggers and activists that came to Sweden and tried to help them here and set up networks for them. So, and I've become friend of some of these bloggers here in Sweden. So I'm not so updated on the present situation in Bangladesh, but I'm very well aware of the situation in general. So.
Thank you, Mr. Ulf Gustafsson. It is very nice to hear a few words from you. And as well, I would like to present in Bengali. My friend Ulf Gustafsson is a General Secretary of the Swedish Humanitarian Organization. As well, Nirjan Majumdar is here. And Monaz Bhai was here too. So, Mr. Nirjan Majumdar, could you come forward and present yourself so that we will start very soon our conversation as whole. Thank you.
Yes, thanks for giving me the floor. Hi, I'm Nirjan Majumdar, a Bangladeshi journalist, blogger, right now working and researching on counterterrorism issues, and I'm a humanist as well. And it's nice to be here, to be invited to this discussion today. I hope people will enjoy it.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Nirjan Majumdar, and I welcome all of you today here in Facebook live stream. If you'd like to share this streaming, so you may share this streaming with your friends and others, those who are online, so that they can enjoy today's discussion on issue human rights and the 50 ICT at 57 law in Bangladesh. As well, now I would like to present Mr. Monaz Haq. Could you come forward and tell us something about you and your activities?
Yes, my device is telling me that connection is very poor, even though I will try to speak a little bit. My name is Monaz Haq. I am living in Germany, in Berlin, and working in the field of journalism. I have another profession, but that is another connection. Working in the news is very important for especially for Bangladesh, because lots of journalists has been arrested during the last 2, 3 years, 4 years. In all, 21 journalists, and that's why it is very important to talk each other about the situation in Bangladesh. Thank you. That's my introduction.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. All of you are very much welcome today with us, and hope you will enjoy today's discussion about human rights and blogger issue. There are few incidents that happened few years back in Bangladesh. As a matter of fact, we know all of us that is a whole world community activist and organization, human rights organization, they are very much aware of the problem and the situation there in Bangladesh, and human rights organization in Sweden. They are very much active and very much helpful with the publishers, bloggers, writers, as well. Their friends from Bangladesh, and all personally were involved in this situation for a couple of years. And it is our organization too. I'm involved with this organization a few years back. So Ulf, would you like to describe how you describe the human rights situation and the law ICT Act 57 in Bangladesh?
Yes, at first, as we already mentioned, this is like a very difficult situation for journalists to do their work, but also for other type of activists that are working for human rights in general, women's rights, minority rights, etc. And the problem is when you can be arrested for telling your opinion or just writing things that are seemed provocative, but it's just the truth, or just telling the news about the situation, and that can then seems to be hurtful for people, and then the people can be arrested for that. But that is not the only problem. The other problem is that the community hunt down people like that, so you're not safe from the general community as well. So it's two type of problems for writers and activists in general here.
Yeah, that's very much true. That is, in Europe, the human rights activists and bloggers and writers and other organizations were very much aware of the problem in Bangladesh. That is what was happening about human rights situation. Now you start conversation, Nirjar Mojumdar. Here you take the part and you start the real depth of the issue and how you describe the situation. As well, you are a free thinker. So far, all of us in Bangladesh, the writers and bloggers, know about you, and you are a research worker on anti-terrorism activities in the world as well, we can say. So please come forward and start conversation. I will just listen to you. Thank you very much.
Okay, what is happening in Bangladesh regarding the general situation is actually it's very grave. Not in a generalized environment, if we say, actually it's not only the free thinkers or secular humanists or journalists, bloggers. Of course, we are particularly vulnerable. But what I want to say, when you have this type of laws in Bangladesh or anywhere in a state system, this is somewhere very problematic for everybody. I still remember in 2013 when this special article in the ICT Act was introduced for the first time. Yeah. We tried to tell it to the government, and our first line of argument was even if the government, even the power change, if the power change in future, then this type of draconian acts, it could be and it will be used against the present government and the government party activists, which indeed has already happened. That there were lots of cases where government party activists or people who were known as pro-government activists, they were convicted and tried under this Article 57 of the ICT Act. And apart from that, what we all know what is happening with the journalists, the bloggers, the free thinkers in Bangladesh regarding this act. But apart from that, there are some very disturbing trends which are also going unnoticed.
Correct.
In Let me give you guys an example. I was looking through the incident of what happened in Rangpur a couple of months before, when a person, he was falsely accused of harassing the Prophet over Facebook, and later a whole village dominated of Hindu population was vandalized, and this person was actually arrested and now is behind the bars. So when I looked at this particular case, I myself was very much involved in the observation process, and I was approached by the law enforcers in Bangladesh to help them in analyzing the case. And I did my part, and what I found out that this person who was accused, he is a completely illiterate person. He doesn't know how to operate Facebook, and despite that, that was not sufficient enough for the law enforcers and for people who accused him to get him out of the accusations, and he's still inside jail. And the problem with this particular act is if you get accused, that is some sort of punishment. You cannot get any. This is as you might know, this is a non-bailable law, meaning if you're accused and get arrested, you cannot get a bail unless the case is finished. So. Generally speaking, this is a textbook example of how a law can affect the civil society of a country as a whole, and at the same time, after a stage, how it can affect even the general mass. That's what I wanted to say.
Right.
Yes. Yes.
So Wolf can put some comments on this. That is how much you were known about this situation in Bangladesh, and how you react. Thank you.
Yes. Of course, I read about these cases that Nirja mentioned, and it's very typical that somebody is then accused and they can't have any possibility to defend themselves, and from the community in general, they are like convicted just by being accused. And but the big problem here is that the state fails completely when it comes to uphold any law that is based on common understanding, evidence, and things like that. But and at the same time, it's really the thing is that even if there are laws that are not used, they are causing problems.
Yes.
This type of blasphemy laws have been like in place in many countries. Sweden had it until 1970s. But then we had a law that was abolished in 1970 something, but they hadn't been used then for 50 years.
Yeah, it's a very long time. I mean,
yes.
Scandinavia.
But so laws can be problematic even if they not are in use, because they set some kind of standard in the society, what is acceptable speech or not. So people restrict themselves.
That's true.
Even if they're not convicted or accused of crimes.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Manazhok. That is, that is Europe. In Europe, there are a few organizations, human rights organization, Amnesty International, and Swedish PEN and PEN International. They are also aware of the problem. And recently, what had happened, that is one guy called Asad Noor. If he's arrested, so that he shouldn't be in a very critical situation without knowing or getting the news what is really happening, or getting the judicial support from the nation, as well he's thrown into the jail. So I wish you can comment on this, because Nirjhar Mujumdar, you are very much well known among of us, Nirjhar can describe the situation very elaborately. So Manoj bhai, you can come and we start conversation on that purpose. Yeah.
Yes, before going to the part of Asad Noor, I have to point out something, because this is not new. This section 57. We have to see how is the situation in Bangladesh before. If you consider the colonial rights, colonial time, colonial rule, it was in 1890 or 98, like that. They imposed a rule that is called Criminal Procedure Code. And that was happening at that time even. I mean, these criminal proceeding rules is everywhere in the world, even in the European countries. But in Bangladesh, it became the ICT law in the year 2006, I think, 2006, during the BNP government. They actually did it because they needed to protect their alliance Jamati ministers in their cabinets. And that's why they imposed this law, ICT Act. And there was a law on this point that nobody should criticize the government and nobody should criticize even individual ministers. And this law became so popular, or so, I mean, lots of people has been, showing against of this law. And finally, in 2013, again came to the scene that this law has to be amended, and the present government, Awami League government, they did it, and they did it in a vigorous way. It becomes actually a draconic law, and the law says that one should not criticize the government in any means, not only in the writing, even in the electronic media. That's why international information and communications technology law. And what does it say?
I'd like to ask you one thing. Does it?
It says that if you do this.
Yes. I would like to mention that is. Does it violate the international law, like freedom of speech and freedom of writing? So after you, maybe Nirjhar Mama can.
Yes, of course, it's violating vigorously.
Yes, please carry on.
Yes, is it me? Should I answer your questions?
Please carry on.
Yeah.
Sure. It's vigorously violating the human rights, because if you are living in a democratic country, we are all living in the European democratic country, we have the power to say about the government. We can criticize the system, we can criticize the government, but no one is coming to your house and arrest you unless you are evidently doing against of the government, or doing something, planning something to reshuffle the government. But the people, those who are protesting in Bangladesh, they are not protesting to reshuffle the government. They are protesting about the system, what we wanted to see in our country. So it is not the violations of the law. And the law itself is a critical position. Even the law minister of Bangladesh, he already said several times that this law should be amended, and we have to put it in a justified way. Still it's not happening. So what's happening? During the Asad Noor, he actually a blogger. He has several times criticized the system, and even he has criticized this religion. Religion in a form, you can follow the religion or you can deny the religion. It's your own opinion. And he has done it, and that's why Bangladesh government is not alone governing the country. I think the religious government, that's why government has taken action Assad and arrested him because he has criticized the religion.
I got it. I got it. Now, Mr. Nirjar Mojumdar, could you please highlight the situation that is how the international community sees the situation on human rights in Bangladesh, a part of this law. Thank you.
At first, I want to add something in where the law violates the international code of conducts on basically on human rights. The Article 57 of the ICT Act in Bangladesh, it is directly contradictory with the Article 19 of the Declaration of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights by the United Nations. And not only that, actually, this particular law, likewise, the law of Section 295 in Bangladesh Penal Code, both of these laws are actually in direct contradiction with the existing constitution of Bangladesh. This law doesn't comply with what the constitution says, and there are actually lots of legal reviews regarding this direct contradiction between this particular law and the constitution of Bangladesh. So I want to make it clear that this law is actually, it doesn't comply with the constitution of Bangladesh. That is the first point. And again, this law actually even legally speaking, not generally, legally speaking, it cannot be considered as a law. The terms that were used to form this law are very vague, and it's very hard to define the wordings that are used in the law. So it can be very widely interpreted, and the general nature of a law shouldn't be like this. So I'm not even in favor of considering this. It's like a statement which all on a sudden became law for fulfilling political purposes. But I'm not in favor to call this. It's so. It's so vague and so peculiar that we shouldn't consider this as a law. That is my first point. And as you might have seen since 2012, when the bloggers and the secular activists started getting threats and were attacked since 2012. The international community took this matter very seriously, and that is my impression so far. But having said that, I want to add something in this total situation. There is a lack of general understanding, which I see many times when I go to other human rights activists and brief them about what is happening in Bangladesh. It's not only a problem between the bloggers and the Islamists. It's not only a problem between the bloggers and the government, but there are lots of other different factors that are involved here, which are also part of the problem. For instance, I can tell you about another example of the abduction of a journalist, Utpal Dash.
Yeah.
He was he was in no way actually involved with any sort of making any sort of political statements or any sort of activism, but still he was abducted, and this is where it becomes problematic. Somehow, maybe, I don't know, a particular mechanism, maybe inside a state inside the state, somehow they They want to send the message with a purpose to make people panicked, and that is the exact feelings I get every time I see this type of events happening. And at the same time, one of the main perspective that is always, according to my opinion, that is always missed by many parties involved, is the growing influence of Islamists in politics. It's very easy to condemn terrorist organizations like Al Qaeda or Islamic State. But what is more problematic, what is more disturbing to me, is the growing influence of public Islamist groups like Hifazat-e-Islami. To be honest, I don't see any difference between Al Qaeda and Hifazat-e-Islami. They both of them follows more or less if not all, more or less the same doctrine that they follow. And this type of people, this type of political groups are actually gaining heavy influence day by day. And I will not, in particular, I will not make the government completely responsible. Of course, they share a large part of the responsibility of this disturbing trend. But again, we have to take into account that the largest opposition, Bangladesh Nationalist Party, and parties like Jamaat-e-Islami, they also, behind the scene, they are also playing a very important role to fueling and growing influence of this type of Islamist group. That is my point, which is many of the time which is missed by international medias and by international activist groups and human rights groups. And this is what I wanted to point about. But at a larger scale, the support and the amount of attention that this disturbing trend in Bangladesh got so far is amazing, and I want to actually thank to these international organizations, because they worked very hard to save many of my colleagues back in Bangladesh. So that is my impression regarding the activities of international organizations as a whole.
Yeah,
yes.
it is true. We are very much thankful to Ulf Gustafsson and others, those who are very much involved in this situation, for the writers and bloggers and publishers in our country, and their awareness and their loving the care actually saved, and actually their emotion has made us very much involved in it. Did you discuss with these things with Ulf's organization as well? I'd like to present that is Ulf is a very famous blogger in Europe, and is a very strong activist in Sweden, I should say. And Nirjar Mojumdar is a member of Ulf organization as well. Ulf, could you comment on this? That is how you reacted first time when the situation has arrived and situation became like this in Bangladesh on human rights. Thank you.
So in 2013, it was like onward, more in 2015, it was like in some way a surprise, but that's I should say that this could be some regard as lack of knowledge from like the international community. But the thing is this, that it seems to be that there was like a positive change going on in Bangladesh at that time, that the democracy was growing stronger and freedom of speech. People started to organize themselves and to be more active.
Correct.
And then they came over a harsh backlash from Islamist organizations. Correct. And that was in some way at that time a surprise. especially for me, as you say. But if you look back on this now, it's not so surprising to see this backlash and this surge of activity from the Islamist groups, because they were there before. They had been in a proximity of power in Bangladesh some years previously.
Yes.
So they had really the organization and they had the manpower and everything. The thing that it was new that they acted in this type of situations.
That was.
Is that similar what you see?
I think Nijor can comment on this. I'm just here to conduct the situation. Nijor can describe how you see the changes 2013 up to 2018 now, and the fundamentalist or these religious organization, how they are acting after that.
Well, as I said, my main part of the concern is the growing influence of Islamist groups in the politics of Bangladesh. In one hand, if you analyze the stance and the speeches given by many government officials, in one hand, they maintain a sort of very disturbing neutral stand in the face of these brutal killings that's been ongoing since 2013.
Yeah.
And this is very very interesting because let me give an example. If terrorist group, if what they want to achieve through violence, if the same goal can be achieved through politics, then actually this terrorist group they lose their they lose their importance in one hand, and that is exactly what is happening now since 2014, I would say. When in one hand, or when terrorist groups are killing the bloggers, and at the same time publicly known Islamist groups like Hefazat-e-Islami, Jamaat-e-Islami, they are approaching very first towards the goals. And what is disturbing is that the government is very compliant with their political desires, and this is what I think it's a sort of major development, though disturbing. But this is what the trend stand for at this moment. If you know what I mean.
All right.
And if you see, since the last noted murder happened in 2016, and right now we are in 2018, and this trend, the wave of murder, it follows a pattern. Whenever the Islamists gain influence in the politics, this murder stops. And whenever they are in some sort of problems, whenever they face challenge from the people or political challenge from groups like us, that's the time when this type of harsher reprisal takes place. And this is a sort of synchronization of what I want to mean. This is a very well organized synchronization between the publicly known Islamist groups and terrorist groups like Al Qaeda, and that is why I think the government, though differently, they're complying with all these demands from the Islamist group, which is more or less the same with the terrorist groups. And this is to me it's the right now, if you tell me in one sentence, I would say this is the most major and significant disturbing development in Bangladeshi politics.
I do urge Mr. Monazak, that is, do you agree with Ulf and Nirjan Mojumdar? That is their opinion. That the changes that happened after 2013 and 2018. That is, we wanted to see a positive development. We, as Ulf mentioned, that is in Bangladesh, he expected a kind of positive reflection of the situation, but it hasn't happened in that way. So, do you agree, or what is your opinion about Ulf and Nietzsche's point of view? Thank you.
Yes, I do agree with Nietzsche and Wolf. Wolf is a person who is, active in Europe, but Nietzsche did it in Bangladesh. And I should add with Nietzsche that it's not only the extremist group or Islamist group, the government's students group, for example, the Jubo League and all these students league, they are also, in a sense, helping government. I mean, okay, well, this is the government organization, but they are doing, if you consider that 21 journalists has been arrested under the ICT Act, most of the journalists have been sued by Jubilee organization. I have some report from the different newspaper that more than 20 people has been arrested by the help of student army league groups, the leaders, some of the lawmaker even involved in this process. So the question is, by making this ICT Act 57, government has done a reform in the section 57, but at the same time has given the rights to all the lawmaker to arrest in any cases. They can sue people and say that at least they can be arrested. And the arrest, this law is a very dangerous law. So it is non-bailable arresting. So once you have been arrested, you have no way to come out from the jail until the processes begin. So this is condemnable.
Yeah, maybe Wolf can explain. Isn't it a kind of human rights breaking law that is, if you arrest somebody, he cannot come out from the jail till his case is not finished in the court. I mean, this is it goes beyond the human rights. Wolf, you are in Europe. You can explain this.
But it's like, I think that the standard here should be according to the severity of the crime.
Yeah. For
a murder case, that you can't get bail in Sweden for, but for this type of case where it's like, this is very this is very, in general, this should be like very it shouldn't be a crime, that's Ninja said as but even if it's a crime, it's like, it should be like a very small penalty crime.
Exactly.
And it should be like, you should get free until your
case is
put into court. But I think maybe that is like one of the problems here, is that in some cases there are who is like the victim of these crimes.
Exactly.
There are often victimless crimes. If you like insult religion, then it's like, who is hurt here? Exactly. There are no really victims. So the problem is like this type of laws, they are wrong in every case, in every type of aspect. You can look at them. But I was thinking about one thing here, is that you also can be accused them for criticizing or the government. This is one way then of course of silencing opposition to the government, and then that you're not be able to bail out. Then of course they are really good at silencing opposition, and afraid that this will be even worse this year now when there is an election year in Bangladesh, that it will be used more and more
Yes,
by this opposition and critique during this year.
Yes, that's true. That's true. Thank you very much, Ulf. So we have another point to discuss about. That is, there are things happening like the freedom of speech, freedom of journalism, freedom of writing. I mean, government, they are not telling in a openly, that is how much restricted the newspapers, the bloggers, the writers, and others. As well, you can see there are few writers and bloggers are in exile in other countries, in abroad, like Taslima Nasreen and Daud Haidar, and as well Nirjan Mujumdar, and they are talented people. They are brilliant people. They are writing things. They are exploring the human rights and other things. And why do you think, Ulf, that is it is not right in the question of law, that is to not to permit them to come into the country, not to permit them to write openly? How much you think that is government should change this unexpected laws and things, human rights?
Of course, they should abolish these type of laws directly. There are no excuse for them at all. And in cases like Taslima Nasreen, it's like really peculiar because she is not really allowed to come into the country anymore. Even she is not accused of anything. It's just that they can't protect her in the country, and that's like the government failed in their effort to keep up the safety in the country for some persons.
Yeah, that is a kind of a very strange. That is, if you cannot protect your own citizens in the own nation, and if you think that person is harmful for the nation, so that you should bring that person to the court of justice, and then court will decide what decision government should take against one person. But the question is there, that is, do government have any intention to change this law, or to remove this law for the sake of human rights? I ask Mr. Nidjar and Mr. Monazak, both of you. That is what.
Sorry, I didn't get the question. Sorry.
Do you think the government of Bangladesh is ready or has any kind of intention to remove this law, or to change the whole thing in future?
Well, it's as I told you earlier, when you use religion in politics, the first disturbing nature of such characteristics of politics is you cannot actually, it's near to impossible to reverse the steps that has been taken in favor of religion in politics.
Right.
Let me give you another example in favor of my statement. We have seen that the then military junta, Hussein Muhammad Ershad, when he changed the constitution illegally and introduced the idiotic concept of state religion. At that time, if my memory doesn't betray, at that time it was both Awami League and BNP. They protested against the decision back in 1991.
Yes, I remember. Yeah.
And now, if you see, absolutely no parties in Bangladesh are in favor of changing the state religion in the constitution. It is there, and what is ironic is, the Supreme Court, though the Supreme Court in a verdict has said that those changes that were made in the constitution by the military dictators back from 1975 onwards to 1990. Though they are illegal, but still the Supreme Court gave another verdict that the state challenging state religion is not permitted according to the Bangladeshi law. So this is what I wanted to say. Once you take a step towards favoring religion in the politics, it's very hard to reverse this type of actions. And I don't think the government is nowhere near to abolish the ICT Act. If what is assured, if they abolish the ICT Act, then we will have a much more harsher blasphemy law that will be replaced by this one. And if you ask for any change, this is the most predictable outcome given the situation in Bangladesh, and it's actually it is a common trend around many of the countries dominated by religion. So I don't think the government, even if they want at some point, I don't think that they could reverse their action anymore. That is my opinion regarding this.
Thank you very much for your wonderful opinion. And the same question goes to Mr. Manaz Haq as well. Before that, I would like to thanks all viewers and users. You are placing your comments and your questions below as well. I can see that is Julio Caesar has mentioned few comments there. Please discuss some about the mentality of Bangladeshi political parties. Do they believe on people freedom of expression? If they don't, Nidhar Mojumdar has explained, and as well Wolf has said his point of view on this. And viewers and friends, if you like to share this live streaming with your friends and your groups, please do that, because we wish all of you to see and be aware of the human rights and democratic progressing situation in Bangladesh. I think all of you are very much anxiously waiting to see the election, the situation, the human rights. And here today we are presenting three of the activists here. One very famous blogger and activist and General Secretary of Human Rights Organization in Sweden, Mr. Wolf, as well Mr. Same organization, a member, activist, and research worker, and a brilliant guy called Nidhar Mojumdar, and our famous journalist and activist and editor, Mr. Manazak. Now, same question goes to Mr. Manazak. Do you think, as Mr. Nidhar Mojumdar said, that is, the situation is getting worse and worse in future, and there is no possibility to change, to reverse the law which is activated in Bangladesh right now? Mr. Manazak, please.
Yes, I would analyze this question in according to a journalist's point of view, because as you know that present government is really politically very weak in a sense that they didn't get enough mandate in the last 4 years, and that's why they are trying to rule the country as much as hard they can. Even they need from the even if it is from the rightist bloc or from the extreme right groups or extreme religion group, they have to survive their position. And this historical says that if a government is very weak in governing the system, they need all kinds of assistance from the society, even if it is from the religions group. And that is what they are doing. That is they are doing because the state religion is Islam, and that's why they are taking all kinds of assistance from the religion group. Even they can dictate the government. We see the last time, that's happening now, just recently happening, Tongi, this
Islamic
Tabligh Jamaat,
Jamaat.
and one guy came from
India.
Delhi, and he is very progressive Maulana, and the Hifazat-e Islam don't like him, and that's why he has to go back home. And this is the ideology from the Jamaat, or you can say it's the ideology of Hifazat-e Islam, and they are realizing this one as they think this. This says that.
Oh, well, Manas bhai, I hope you will be connected soon. My point of view, that is, Nijhar can or Ulf can explain it.
Working. Parliament is not working. Jurisprudence is not working. Only the media is working. So media people has to work more and more courageously, and they have to do more for this country.
Yes, we are not going to sit long. Maybe we have arranged this conversation for an hour, around an hour. Now I'd like to ask Ulf or Mr. Nijhar, that is, secularism means that his constitution is completely completely independent, independent by the in fact by the religious emotion, or based on religious laws and everything. That's called secularism. And secularism and human rights goes very close to each other. Now, Nidjar and Ulf, I think Ulf can explain it very clearly. How secularism in Europe, and what sort of big difference you see in Bangladesh, between Bangladesh and European point of view, why secularism looks so different in two continents. Thank you.
So as you see, yes, the secularism is like separating the state from religion.
Yes.
Or religious organization, so that the constitutional laws should not be based on religion. But it also includes that there should be like freedom of religion for everybody. So there should be no restriction for people to have their personal beliefs or change religion and adopt a religion of their own thinking and liking. But I think that one change is that when you have like Muslim majority countries like Bangladesh, if there are like a strong demand of basing the society or the law in Sharia or the scripture, that is of course a very strong culture to change. But I don't know if that is really the case in Bangladesh, because the type of Islamic culture we have today is like the Islamic culture we have from the Middle East. And to my knowledge, India and Bangladesh have a complete different, or some different history about how they're treated religion historically. So I think that the changes we see in Bangladesh now is like adopting to more Middle East type, looking in how the religion should adopt, or Islam especially, be adopted into the society. What do you think of that?
Yeah, Nirjam I think Nirjam Mama is very much aware of this, and he can explain it to us very elaborately. Thank you.
Well, Bangladesh, as you know, it's the 8th largest population among all the countries around the world. So it's really hard to point out any particular factor or standard on the basis of which we could sort of logically analyze these type of trends. But what I want to say, if you know, these are populist ideas that are being used in the politics of Bangladesh. And this idea, if you look, Bangladesh is no exception, actually. Around many countries of the world, these type of populist ideas took a sort of driving control in the politics of many countries. But as I also I want to say, the main point of every secularist and people who are deeply religious in their personal life but don't really prefer religious politics. Almost all of them, they are I mean they prefer a religiously neutral type of mechanism that should run the state and the government. And this is where all this conflict originates, because binarily speaking, it's the secularists versus the Islamists. And it's been a common trend around many countries of the world by now. But at the same time, yes, of course, my personal opinion is secularism or neutrality to religion should be one of the founding pillar of running any state mechanism. That's my opinion.
That's
Yes.
thank you very much. Thank you very much. I would like to thank you, friends, those are here, like Ghulam Mustafa Anwar. He mentioned here. Actually, nowadays Bangladesh, freedom of speech is in lowest form. It is better to say nil. That is the feelings from Bangladesh. One user has mentioned here. That is what he feels. That is the freedom of speech is in lowest form in Bangladesh. You see, it is very sad that is a person is feeling that is it is better to say nil. That is, it gives a pain while you are in Europe in a democratic environment, and one citizen of that nation has got such kind of feeling that actually made us sad, isn't it, Wolf and Manas Bhai and
Yes.
Nijan
Yes.
Mujumdar? Could you
Yes, it
could you
is.
now the thing is this, that is all of my friends are here. Few of friends are expressing their feelings through their writings here. I'm trying to watch all of your comments here, and more 10 Julio Caesar and more 10 of the 15 years ago it was quite normal in Bangladesh to publish book. And yes, now Ulf can answer this question. Julio Caesar has mentioned publishing the books, publishers, and they are right.
Yes.
They are right. How it is affect one writer and his future and his thoughts. That is not to publish. I mean, he's not even allowed to publish his thoughts or
Yes.
writing on freedom of speech and books and things. I think you can answer these things. What is the effect, Wolf?
Yes, of course. This is really very, very restrictive for a writer to be afraid of what he or she can write. And then, of course, even if he writes things, there are nowhere there to publishing the books or text the person having in it they want to contribute. And that is really, it's so stifling for the society in general when people don't are free to express themselves, because all type of innovations and new thoughts and changes
Yeah,
are restricted in every way.
that's
And especially then for writers that have like expression as their occupation, it must be really, really hard to live under these conditions.
that's a wonderful subject you put up on highlight, Mr. Julius Caesar. Thank you, all of you users again. We have planned to stay with you for for an hour today. I hope now my talking is finished now. If there are anything to point out, so Mike goes to the other representative of this talk show. So
I want to point out the last point. Can I?
yes, please,
Am I
yes,
in the
please.
micro?
Yes, you are.
The thing is actually you have spoken the religion and state. It has been decided more than 250, 225 years in the Europe through the French Revolution that state and religion has been separated. And most of the European country is ruling by this system. The religion has its own place and the state has its own place. So if you prefer one religion to involve in the government system, other religion would might be not happy. That's why state and religion should be separate. And this is the main point, which is a country like Bangladesh or all other religious-based country, they couldn't, they are still in the process of doing this thing. And until it's not been ensured that the state has its own governing system, through the parliament and through the constitution, it won't be solved this problem. And in our country, especially 80 or 90% Muslim religion, they will be in the overhand and they will try to dictate the country and they will try to dictate the government even. So it should be a courageous government. It should be a good policy in the country that the religion and state should be separate. And this would be our next ideology or next hope or next dream, and fight for this dream. And on this point of view, journalist has been asked to write in this point of view. Thank you very much for inviting me in this your discussion.
Nijhar, Mr. Nijhar, your point of view?
Yes, thank you for inviting me today. Then I enjoyed the discussion. Thanks.
Yes, as well. It was very interesting to participate, and it was really good of you, Arif, to invite me to here tonight. Thank you very much.
I would like to say thank you for all viewers. You are here today. We had a plan to sit here 1 hour, things like that. I do thank all of you, all of you, those who were with us today, and I especially thanks Mr. Ulf Gustafsson. He's General Secretary of Swedish Human Rights Organization, and extreme brilliant Mr. Nijhar Mojumdar. And we are very glad to have you here, Mr. Nijhar, and as well Mr. Manaz Haq. And Nijhar Mojumdar, hope to see you again. And Ulf, thanks a lot.
Yes.
And Mr. Manaz Haq as well, thank you very much. So viewers, if you feel like to share this video for the further information to others, so you can do that. You just share this video with your group and friends. And I should say thank you very much, and I wish you good luck and good health.